All right, guys, welcome to Fights Unwrapped. We are live. We have a very special guest waiting in the wings right now. His name, as you might know him as the Monkey God, Jared Brooks, and he has a fight coming up in December for one championship. And joining me today is obviously we have Alec Carr and Dustin Hunt. Okay, so before we get him in to studio, we are going to talk about our sponsors real quick, okay? So we're gonna talk about rxhemp.com. So if anybody who has any like sports injuries, back injuries, whatever it is, go find your CBD products and get that cracking at rxhemp.com. Use the code rxhemp-usn for 10% off your entire order. As well, if anyone is betting on anything obviously MMA related, use mybookie.ag, use promo code USN100 for 100% sign up bonus today. Okay, guys, are you ready to introduce our special guest? All right, let me get him in here.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up,
Welcome,
man?
Jared.
How you guys
We're
doing
so
today?
good,
Good.
thank you. Thank you for being on our show. We are so glad to have you. We have a bunch of questions to ask you, obviously retaining to your fight. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna introduce ourselves. My name is Monique, and then my co-hosts are obviously Alec Carr and Dustin Hunt. And we are gonna get started with the questions. I'm gonna start with Alec because he has a lot of questions. So we're gonna start first,
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
Yeah. How you doing, man? How you doing,
Good.
Jared?
How about you, brother?
I'm good, man. I feel like I relate to you on a level because you're from Detroit. I'm from Philadelphia. They're very similar cities. So it's like I love your energy. It's so great watching you go after these things. Given that monkey god pressure that you do.
Oh, thank
Um, so the first question I'd really like to ask is, um, you know, we're all big fight fans, but we'd be foolish to think that one championship gets as much press coverage as the UFC, right? And
Oh,
you having fought in both, I'd like to know what you think the difference is. Do you see like positives and negatives of fighting in the UFC or one championship? Um, and then which one do you like better?
well, I'll say first, the one I like better is One Championship because they treat us very well over there. It's like a family when you're, being introduced to the production crew. They're taking you everywhere, making sure that you're having fun in the process of doing all these interviews and all these structured stuff before the fight. So I would say fighting for One Championship is a blessing because UFC, they really only care about their top three, right? So ever since I got into One Championship, they have treated me nothing but with respect, and everybody in that company is like one family. The production is better than the UFC's, in my personal opinion. The UFC definitely does have new cameras, and their cameras are really really cool. But the production period, if you just look at the production and how the show is, then it's a show compared to fights, right? So I don't know if you guys know who Mike McKinstry is. Mike McKinstry used to be the WWE. He used to pretty much run the whole production of WWE. So he's running our production right now in One Championship, and it's just starting. Like literally, it's just starting. Everybody's on that tip of One Championship's going to be bankrupt over all of that stuff. And I've had talks with Shatri personally, and he laughs at that kind of stuff. So. Watch for One Championship in the upcoming years.
Yeah. So on top of that, what do you think about the Amazon deal?
The Amazon deal is huge. It's just the beginning. In America, it's as far as the American broadcasters and the American fans, they're going to start to incorporate more into the One Championship style because you're seeing all forms of martial arts. Some guy might not like striking. Some guy might not like wrestling. Some guy might not like jujitsu. You know what I'm saying? But he might like Muay Thai, right? So you're getting pretty much all of those aspects coming into one, and that's why we're called One Championship.
Yeah, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I mean, I think the Amazon deal is a good idea for the American audience, and fighters like you, American fighters like you, are certainly going to help with that. With one championship going more global instead of just the Asian markets. That's awesome. So, I have lots more questions, but I'll turn it over back over to Monique and kind of let her take the way.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, Dustin, I know you're muted right now, so you gotta unmute yourself, brother, before we get into those questions. Okay, so do you have a question for Jared before I start asking my questions?
I do. So I was just looking down your record, and you have fought the current champ.
Mhm.
You have fought a current UFC champ. I was just want to ask, what's it like fighting a guy on Figgy's level? Just being in there with him. How fast was he? Was there something special about him compared to other fighters? What was really different about fighting a guy at that level?
The only difference of fighting any other fighter compared to Deiveson Figueiredo was that crowd. That crowd was unforgiving. They are Brazilian fans are the best. Like literally, they make sure that they take care of their Brazilians. That's for sure. And I wish that Americans would follow suit with that, to where you have people from other countries. I mean, I understand it's an American audience, but seeing something different from outside of the country. But to the average American fan is like, no, I'm not going to support this. White American. That's how I see it, though. I see it kind of like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you can be an entertaining fighter like Justin Gaethje, like Michael Chandler, but those guys still don't get the recognition that is put out in front of them, because one, they're American, and it's been American-based promotion for 29 years. So I feel like I'm not gonna get into politics or anything like that, but that's kind of how I feel on how they like the American fans base stuff.
Okay, I'll have one more. So you've won fights, obviously, in both promotions, the UFC and one. Do you see any type of big talent difference when it comes to the two fighters just fighting within the ranks of both one fighting, one championship, and the UFC?
I would say mostly it's different. It's just two completely different promotions. I mean, if you're looking at the mixed martial arts aspect, then yeah, you can compare it, but we have everything. So it's like what do you want? Do you want lettuce? You want tomatoes? No, I want it all, right? I want it all on my sub, and that's what one championship brings compared to the UFC, and that's why I think that it's going to be really interesting in these upcoming years.
Okay.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the question to Jared. It's a very simple question. So you're on a 3-fight win streak right now, which is obviously super impressive, and one championship. Who do you think has been your toughest opponent thus far?
My toughest opponent by far is Hiroba Minowa, because he can just take a beating and keep on going, man. That kid is he's definitely very tough. So it definitely surprised me when he backed out of the fight with Volkan Massiane over 2 pounds, when I fought Hiroba when he was overweight, and I fought Volkan when he was overweight. So he might have seen something in Volkan that shunned him off a little bit, but besides that, the kid's super tough.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have a fan question. It's actually someone from our sports network. He said, people hate on athletes who say they are the best, but in the fighting world, do you have to have that mentality in this profession, or else you can get legitimately hurt?
You have to be very calm, collected, but at the same time, this is mental warfare, and if a wolf is standing in front of you and it's barking at you, and you see its teeth, and you're like, holy shit, like what am I gonna do? You're gonna scream back at that wolf. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna intimidate that wolf in order for it to back away, or it's gonna feel like you're the alpha in the situation. So it's more of a alpha male mentality that has to be brought into the fight game. Once that person realizes that you're the alpha, then it's a little bit easier.
All right, thank you, Anthony Conover. So we're back to Alex. So I know he has a bunch of questions pertaining to your fight, and also somebody who name dropped you recently. I know that Alec wanted to get into that. So Alec, I'm gonna bring it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Monique. And first of all, if you want to introduce your dog, that would be great.
Yeah, this is the monkey dog. He's actually pretty famous right now.
Aww.
Yeah, your training partner, right?
Yeah, we train together. Late at night, we go to the basement and we just roll around.
Great, man. I love it. I got a pit bull too. I absolutely love them. They're great dogs, man. So I want to get into this fight because this fight's got me excited. You know, you're facing Joshua, who's an absolute monster on the feet. Has gotten so much better on the ground too. I mean, I don't know if you think this, but I would think probably your toughest opponent to date, even including Figgy, because you know those were at different time periods. So what I'd like to ask is like you've never faced a striker quite like him before. So do you change your game plan when you're going against a striker like this, someone whose hands and legs and spinning back fist and gets all kinds of crazy? Or do you base that game plan? You're going to bring that monkey pressure. You're going to go after him.
If I'm worried about him, then I'm in the wrong sport, right? He's got to worry about me at the end of the day and how much. I mean, he hasn't fought in he's fought like 2 times in the past 4 years, so he's gotten a lot of training. You see it in his fights. He has gotten better, and that just comes with time and stuff like that. But Joshua's just not on my level, man. Like, I just feel like, I fought one of his teammates, Lito Adwang, which has way more power. Josh is a little bit more calculated, but I've seen some bitch come out of Joshua Pasiao. I've seen fights you tapped. If you're tapping, then you're in the wrong sport. You better go out. And that's what I plan on doing with Joshua Pasiao.
Yeah, I love that, man. And how do you feel about this fight was originally scheduled a while back. How do you feel about it getting canceled? Are you just happy to be fighting? You're not even concerned about that? Does it give you an extra chip on the shoulder?
I feel like this. I don't know whose fault it was. I still don't know to this day. But I just feel like I kind of missed out on a paycheck and a little bit more time to do what I'm supposed to do. So, yeah, I was a little hurt. But at the same time, it's like, I'm coming out here and I'm going to be the champion no matter what day, no matter what time, no matter what opponent you put me up against. It's my time, and I'm going to let it shine.
Man.
Ali,
go ahead, Monique.
Okay, did you have a follow-up question, or can we move on to Dustin and then me and then a fan question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Dustin, are you done with your questions, or do you have any more for Jared?
I think the only one I would have. So let's just say hypothetically you do win the title and you go on a big, title defense, you get a big streak over in one, your name gets a lot bigger. And let's just say the UFC offered a transfer, kind of have you come back and fight at kind of a higher rank. Would you consider that?
No, people say this, it's my fault that I'm a very loyal person, but the people that feed me and the people that, treat me right, I'm always going to stay with them, man. And I got cut off of a win in the UFC, right? And my only loss was really Davis and Figueiredo and myself, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, where do I go? Do I take the high route, and stay with one, or do I go to the low route and go to the UFC to where you might be treated like a C-class fighter until you have like 8 straight knockouts? Because there's so much talent in the UFC and mixed martial arts to where you have to literally be the best fighter you can be every fight. And if you don't please those matchmakers, if you don't please the people that are in charge, then no, it's not about winning fights anymore. It's all about entertainment, right?
Fair point.
So who's the best at the end of the day when it's an entertainment industry, right? That's the thing I like about ONE is they're very entertaining. They're all about promotion, and they do have the best fighters. So, yeah, I don't know if I would go back to the UFC. They would have to pay me a lot.
I was just going to say, so do you still feel a certain way about, I mean, the way I see it, Monique and I were just talking about it in right before this. I see you as unjustly cut. So does that go in? Because you got a lot of energy when you fight, man, which makes you one of my favorite fighters to watch. Does that help fuel that energy, or do you just move on and you're like, or are you saying, you know what, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to be the best ONE championship fighter ever.
Yeah, that's what I plan on being. I want to be the best ever. I want to beat people like DJ. I want to beat people like, Rod Tang. I want to beat the best in there. I want to clear out ONE championship. And if they pay me well enough, it doesn't matter what weight.
I love it, man.
I like it.
Okay, so we are going to move on to one of my questions. Before we move on to a fan question, I know you know this fan very well, Jared, okay? So before we go into that, I know you have a lot of great coaches, a lot of great fans and support on your side. What would you say is the best advice a coach has ever given you?
I would say that's a very hard one because I have a lot of amazing coaches. Like all of my coaches are grade A. They've always given me advice, and the mental aspect is more important than the physical aspect, in my personal opinion. James, our team motto. This is James Lee Smash Fight Team. Oh, wrong way. James Lee Smash Fight Team right here. His team motto is "We stay winning." We stay winning. It doesn't matter. If I get an injury and I can't fight for the rest of my life, guess what? I'm gonna stay winning, right? So it's all about that. And if you keep that mentality and you keep that word inside of your head, then you're destined to win. But another quote is from my strength and conditioning coach, Guy Monarch. He's like, "Be a goldfish. Forget everything. Forget your win. Forget your loss. Forget everything." And that has brought me to where I am right now. Like literally, I'm trying to be a goldfish as much as possible. After a win, try to not get your ego too high, right? After a loss, try not to bring yourself down too much, right? So yeah, that's helped me a lot. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no worries. And obviously, I told you we had a fan question. You know this fan very well. It's the person that introduced me to you. It's Josh Lawrence. He says, "What round is Jared Brooks gonna finish Josh P in?" Why don't you answer that?
Josh, what's up, man? How you doing? I hope you're having an amazing night. And I think I'm going to finish Joshua Posse out in either the first or the second round. But I am prepared for 5 rounds. Constantly getting in shape, but I do think that I could put him out in the first or second via rear naked choke. And the thing is, man, these guys are going to be so worried about my wrestling. They're going to be so worried about my grappling that they're going to be taking away from their own stuff. So I've been working with, I don't know if you guys know who Justin Scoggins is. Justin Scoggins is probably the best pound for pound striker in the 125 pound division. So when I'm going against people like, I live with him. So when I'm going against people like him every day, and he's literally trying to take my head off. Justin don't play around in sparring either. So I got somebody better than Joshua Posse out on the feet. I'm training with every day. So all that spinning stuff, all that, spinning back kick, the spinning fists, all that stuff, I can bring it too. I can bring all of that because I mend into fighters. And it doesn't matter how much training I did for you, I'm going to mend into you in the fight.
Okay, that's awesome. I know, Alikar, you have a bunch of questions pertaining to a certain Demetrius Johnson, obviously, that dropped your name and also talked about you in a recent podcast. So, Alec, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So before we get to that question, because I really want to talk a little bit more about this fight, because you and Joshua are very aggressive fighters. Both of you are. He likes to apply pressure. He likes to throw those crazy things. And there's been things said about your striking, which I think is nonsense. When I break down your fights, you can strike with some of the best of them, man. So are you gonna bring that pressure? Are you gonna see if you can catch a leg and not bring the pressure? Or is it just it's just a fight's a fight. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. I do the same thing every fight. Kind of like that Khabib mentality, how he goes about it.
Yes, I'm going to smash for sure. It's not even that either. I think of it in the coach's perspective as well. Mark Lingao, I think is his name, from Team McKay. I study his coaches. I study your whole team. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just studying Joshua Pasiao over here, right? So when I see Joshua Pasiao's team, what are they thinking in the back of their head? This guy's going to shoot on you. You need to stay low. You want to hit elbows. You want to hit knees from him coming in, right? But he's going to make that mistake. I can head kick too, man. I'm telling you, I think that I can head kick this kid and knock him into another realm. But yeah, they'd be stupid if they didn't think that I was going to take him down and submit him.
That's great, man. And so I got to ask, because I know it's a question you've been asked a lot, and we have to, I hate being on trend with other people, but you got to ask the same questions. Will you stand up with him? Will you make a concerted effort to stand up with him?
Like I said, it's just depending on where the fight goes. If he wants to throw kicks, all that stuff, then I'm going to take him down. But if he wants to sit and box with me, if he wants to, he's going to realize that when he kicks, he's going to get taken down. So he's going to try to box with me, and I am a better boxer than Joshua Pasio. The outs, they're fighting like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be right in the pocket, and I'm going to throw straight shots. And Joshua Pasio has been knocked down by Yusuke Tsuruta with an overhand, and Yusuke is trash in my personal opinion. So I think that Josh is gonna be in for a rude awakening. I haven't even showed like I don't know if you guys remember when Kamaru Usman went against Damian Maia. He said, I haven't even showed you guys 30% of what I can do. Right? Then 3 fights later, he's knocking people out on the feet. Right? But it's about the timing on how deceiving you can be to the champion, right? So when the time comes, I've gotten 10 times better than the fight. Everybody's like, yeah, Figueiredo, he's gotten so much better since your fight, all that stuff. I'm like, dude, I've gotten 10 times better than what Figueiredo has. He got beat by Brandon Moreno. If anything, Brandon Moreno has gotten 10 times better, right?
That's true. That's kind of true.
And I think Figueiredo, he has that knockout power. He has that edge on opponents with weight. But if you can figure out Figueiredo, like, it's pretty easy. Because I should have just jabbed his ass off. Because he was worried about the takedown in the first round. After the first round, he was like this. He had his hands down. Just could have straight jabbed him the whole time and then set up my takedowns into other strikes, right? And he was so tired in that third round, I should have just kept on throwing, right? But he does have that power aspect, so I'm not taking anything away from Deiveson Figueiredo. But I've gotten better than Deiveson Figueiredo.
Hey man, I've watched all your fights. I've rewatched a lot of them leading up to this. I see the improvements. I mean, your striking has gotten so much better over time. Unless you were just holding it back. But
everybody's they're thinking that I'm taking people down. That's my first line of fighting. Personally, I'm gonna take you down and see how you react. If you stop my takedown, then we're fighting. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it to tire you out. I'm trying to make, your arms super tired to where you have no power, no distribution in between your hips, right? So, yeah, I'm going to take everybody down, and if they can't get up, then that's their issue, right?
Well, it is. You have some of the best ground and pound in the world, so you take them down, they're probably staying down for so long time. So, Monique kind of teased the question a little bit. You've brought up Mighty Mouse before, Demetrious Johnson. He's bringing you up now. One, I've heard you say you have enough going. You got enough to beat him. One of the all-time greatest in this entire sport. And you got a lot of respect for him. I can tell. You've said so. So couple of questions here. Let's just say you win, right? You win this fight December 3rd. Do you go right to fighting Mighty Mouse, or do you look to defend once against somebody else and then fight Mighty Mouse?
Well, I mean, on Joe Rogan's podcast, he was talking about he's about to head out, so let's do a strawweight versus flyweight world championship fight. And, if that's his last fight, then by golly, I'll win, lose, or draw, man. That's just a dream come true. And it's a win-win for me, right? But in the meantime, if that doesn't happen, I would love to fight Adriano Moraes. I mean, me and him have some backlash in the past, and I feel like we could build up on that with promotion in the fight. So, that fight interests me a lot.
Do you see, this might be a little bit difficult to answer, but it's something that came to mind. You don't know our show that well. I have a very business mind. It's where my head just goes to. And the way I see Mighty Mouse versus the Monkey God fight is I don't know how you personally feel about him, but McGregor-esque for one championship. Do you see that as an opportunity for one championship to catapult into the American market, becoming a global promotion?
Well, look, I mean, if you look at Chinese media, you look at American media, those are two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why not portray your one championship to the Chinese people how the Chinese people want to see it, right? And when you have American-based culture, you have, Western culture, and that's talking shit like, hey, I'm gonna beat your ass and then we're gonna fight type stuff, right? So McGregor, he got that down. So yeah, of course, I'm not dumb. He makes dumb money. So I want to be like that. I want to get that amount of money and take care of my life and, make sure that my family's taken care of and in case I do actually get hurt. Right. So that's what I'm looking forward to. If I don't even know if I could talk shit to Mighty Mouse. You know what I'm saying? He's just, I respect him that much. And I will talk shit to anybody. You know what I'm saying? You pay me, I will talk shit to anybody. But Demetrius, we've talked, we've had breakfast before, and I just see a really good guy that plays video games and likes to hang out with his family.
Yeah, there's not a lot of ammo that he gives people. He's just kind of.
I could tear Demetrius Johnson up. Like I could loss on him because he doesn't say anything back. So it's like. But if you're ruling the dance before the fight, usually the person ruling the dance is winning, right? So, I mean, he's just super talented and he's hard to fight. So I think that at the end of the day, I know I can beat Demetrius Johnson. It didn't matter what kind of, like, from my age right now to when Demetrius Johnson maybe was even in his prime. I don't think that Demetrius could have even beat me then. Compared to the opponents that he was fighting the John Moragas, he was fighting the Tim Elliots, he was fighting people like Ray Borg, right? I'm not pulling shade on any of those guys, but they're not better than me. And I know that Demetrius just doesn't have the prowess what he did back then now. So of course, I would love to fight Demetrius Johnson, and I do think I can beat Demetrius Johnson with all due respect. And I love you, Matt Hume. You've been literally one of the people that I've looked up to. I've looked up more to Matt Hume. I look up to people's coaches. I don't look up to necessarily them. You know what I'm saying? So I'd like to study coaches and the way that they run aspects, and that shows me a lot of how the fighter actually fights.
So I got a follow-up question on that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. If Monique or Dustin have a question, chime in. But I have a follow-up question on that because you obviously have a love for the game, right? Yeah, I mean you're in it, you're fighting, you're talking that shit. You got a love for the game, but you're talking about studying whole teams, right? That's not something you hear a lot of fighters talk about. You don't hear a fighter breaking down film of that guy's teammate. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what you mean and what that really helps you with? Because a lot of our viewers, we have a lot of viewers that are casuals and don't really understand what that means or what that is. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to our viewers. They just casually watch fighting. They're not diehards like the three of us. So I love that mentality. So can you just explain a little bit more about what that means and what that does for you and how that makes you a smarter fighter?
For sure. If you can, it's all about structure. So a team, if they have good structure, then they're usually pretty good. But it's easy to study that structure and see where the structure is. So like an American Top Team, they started out as a bunch of Brazilians from Brazilian Top Team coming over doing Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, right? Then what happens? They start to realize that the wrestlers are taking over the game. So American Top Team now is Wrestling Top Team. They work wrestling every day. That's all they work. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they don't work on other aspects of mixed martial arts, but if you go to the wrestling practices, that's what most of the fighters are doing. And I realize stuff like where people's strengths lie and where their teammates' strengths lie, and how they might portray somebody like me, for instance, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, there's nobody on their team that can wrestle like me. There's nobody on their team that's faster than me. There's nobody on their team stronger at my weight than me. So how are they going to portray me? Right? And then I look at the coach, and I'm just like, all right, so if I was the coach, what would I try to see in myself that, I could exploit? And, the fighter is the fighter. The fighter is smart. He's the one that's going in there no matter what. But the last thing he hears is what his coach is telling him in a bad situation. And I promise you he's going to be in a bad situation. So, like I said, I study YouTube videos. I study people's Instagrams. I see their daily lives. I stalk them, right? And then when we get in the cage, I feel like I know you, right? I feel like we've known each other for years. And when you step into the cage with something that you don't know, it's kind of scary, right? So when you feel like you are that person, like you've lived like in his shoes, then you're like, oh, okay, well, I already know what this is about. I already know what you're about. I already know what your style's about, and I know what your team's about. So I've got it pretty much down pat. But that's with any team, man. I would study teams and instead of just individual fighters and techniques that they're running, because they can switch it up in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. You're talking about some Art of War shit right there. Sound like Sun Tzu. I love it. Get to know your opponent. Get to know the guy across from you and dominate. That's awesome, man. That's absolutely awesome. So, Monique, Dustin, do you guys have any other? Do you have more questions? I'm sure you do.
I have one. It's actually about someone that DJ has beaten. What do you think about Henry Cejudo? Because he's put him out cold.
I think that Henry is tough. Henry Cejudo is a very tough fighter. He's somebody that grew his hands really quick. And when he started to utilize his body kicks and leg kicks more into his strikes, then that's when he's very hard to beat. I think that Henry is not necessarily better than Demetrius Johnson, but I do feel like he is a better overall athlete. Right? So technically speaking, he's not like at Demetrius's level, but I would say like as an athlete for sure, he could probably play any sport and do well. He's like Alexander Volkanovski.
So one thing I have about Henry Cejudo is when Aljamain Sterling actually said, he was talking about Henry Cejudo's wrestling. I'll never forget him saying it because I thought it was stupid. Mm-hmm. He said there's levels to this, and he was talking about Henry Cejudo, and he said basically implied that he's better. And I was like, if there's a level to wrestling, Henry Cejudo, he is the level. I mean, he might be the level.
Not necessarily, man. I've gotten beat by wrestlers that were really, really good in wrestling and just straight wrestling, but inside of the cage, you can't level change, you can't down block, all of that stuff, and the scrambling situations, you can actually get submitted as well. So I would say, as far as like wrestling based MMA, I think that Aljamain is actually better. But
wow.
But I would say as far as technically sound, like on the outside, like not cage wrestling, but on the outside of wrestling, then yeah, I'll give it to Henry.
So nice. I'll jump back in. What do you think about, we just saw the ultimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus wrestling in, Islam versus Do Bronx, which broke my heart, as Do Bronx is one of my favorite fighters in the entire world right now. And I'm still feeling a little grieving process. But anyway, how do you feel about this whole change going on right now? I know you've taken extreme efforts to learn more about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, we saw it in the Masayune, am I saying?
Yeah,
yeah, we saw it there. We saw you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in that fight. It obviously looked like you had been practicing for a long time. So how do you feel about that? Or do you think it really is that you need to be well-rounded in everything right now because you're 29 years old, you'd be considered a younger fighter, right? Do you think these young guys are just so good at everything? It doesn't matter. You need to be well rounded. There's no more, Dan Henderson H bombs being thrown because they get countered with the takedown.
I think that the old style was more like, we're gonna repetitionize this. We're gonna do it through repetition, and it works through repetition, right? So I feel like MMA actually kind of like downgraded from where it was a little bit, because they aren't like doing repetition. They aren't practicing that same move every single time type stuff. It was more of like a one punch, like, wham, bam, go. But now everybody, they've got their mind just everywhere. Like, you see the Israel Adesanya's, you see the Conor McGregor's, you see the Charles Oliveira's, you see them all, and you want to be all of them. You know what I'm saying? But you can't, because those people did repetition, right? The best people are the ones that have that 3 to 4 moves that they do every fight. You know what I'm saying? Or they're training every camp, right? And then they switch it up to where they're like, all right, now we're going to go to these 4. Cool. But a lot of fighters now, they don't focus on a martial art at once. They try to dive in all at once. And it works to some people's favors, and to some people, they just need to go mixed martial art to mixed martial art to mixed martial art and learn the base of that, and try to be the best at that before they move on to that other martial art.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's crazy. You watch these, because I consider myself, when I love a sport, a student of the game, and you watch some of these old fighters, fighting from their heels and stuff. You don't see that shit anymore. Everybody's on their toes.
Yep.
they're bouncing around. It's crazy.
Boss Rutten, he had the most awkward style in the world, but I mean, I still think to this day, Boss Rutten could knock out a lot of people in the UFC.
What a deep pool. I love Boss Rutten, man. That's a great pool. On that, if you had to pick any fighter, dating back to even Pride, who's your favorite fighter to go back? Not even your favorite fighter of all time, but your favorite fighter to go back and just watch again. I'll tell you mine right now. I can't get enough of Dan Henderson tapes. I love watching that guy knock out the best. He's always knocked out the best, and he did it his entire career. That's mine. Well, who's your guy that you go back and watch?
Man, it's very hard to pinpoint, but like, as a kid, Tito Ortiz. I love Tito Ortiz. He was just one of those people that just brought the energy, brought everything that you would want out of a fighter, and he was good, right? But I would say Sakuraba. Sakuraba has beaten everyone, and you can't deny that. At the end of the day, like, this guy's like 165 pounds, beating people like Vitor Belfort when he was on TRT and shit. Yeah. The dude is ridiculous.
I think my favorite was an M Prime, really young Rampage Jackson. Not gonna lie, when he was young and he was a little bit more athletic, he was crazy. What he did back then was crazy.
Quinton was pure athleticism. That's what I see in Rampage. I just feel like he was a good athlete, and he just knew how to work with it.
That punch, though, when they recorded his punch, then the sports science, dude, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, they explain the science. If he lands a right hand flush, it was like literally, I think it was 1800 psi.
Yeah.
And they said rattle your brain on contact. Like, literally, as soon as he touched you, lights out, brain rattle, could have internal bleeding. I was like, who wants to get hit by this? I was like, who really? I don't even professional fighters. Like, who wants to get touched by that, dude? That's ridiculous.
I ain't standing there in front of him. That's for sure.
All right, so I have 2 more questions for you, Jared. The first question is, I know you like every aspect of the game, including the part where you get to talk shit about other fighters. Has there been one fighter that you had the most hostility towards, like true hostility towards?
I would say, I don't really feel too much like disrespect. I seen Jose Torres like a couple months ago in Florida. And, we're cool and everything, but Like the way he did me after that fight, you know, he was talking like, you know, I don't disrespect him for doing that, saying like, I told you you'd be done in the second round type stuff, but like, yeah, I would love to run that fight back just to show people like how not good that guy is. Um, but besides that, I would say Magomed Bibilutov. He fought in the UFC. We are in Chechnya. And Adriano Moraes. Adriano Moraes and I are pretty heavy right now. Like, he does not like me. And it's understandably so. Like, it's fine that he doesn't. But at the end of the day, this is the fight game. And I'm trying to get him paid just as much as I am. So I hope he plays into it more to where, you know, we end up real rivals, and it gets the Asian populace like very into it and the American populace into it. Adriano Moraes is actually pretty famous in the States right now, just from beating Demetrius Johnson. So, yeah, I would love to tussle with him, and I do have some beef with him. But Magomed Bibilutov, like, when I went to Chechnya, I was messing with him. I was just like, hey, your sambo, it doesn't impress me. And he didn't know what I was saying, but he got in my face. He got on my face, and like, I don't know if you guys ever watched like Chechnyan documentaries, but I didn't know at the time, but I went like this, and he pushed me off, and all of his boys, like their whole team, like the president of Chechnya runs Akhmat, which is their fight team and the fight promotion, right?
Right.
So they did not like that. If you know anything about Chechnya, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. We don't need to get political. I've talked about that in our streams, so our viewers kind of already know what you're talking about.
Hey, y'all can YouTube it.
Not the right move. I love it though, man. And I totally.
Yep. Sorry, Alikar, you want to say something before I continue?
No, go ahead, Monique.
Yeah, my second question is, who is your favorite all-time fighter, and then also who's your favorite up-and-coming fighter right now?
Ooh, I would say my favorite all-time fighter. Like, he asked who I like to watch more. I would say my favorite all-time fighter would probably be Vitor.
Mm-hmm.
Vitor, he's killed me forever. And then the person that I'm looking forward to the most. Whew, that's a really, really tough one, because I'm a hater. I am a hater when it comes down to like up and comers. Like, I'll just be like, nah, bro, no, I don't see it. You're young. But when they like turn like 25, but you know, fuck it, Sean O'Malley.
Okay.
Sean O'Malley. Hey,
there we go.
It's like I hated Conor McGregor before he turned into Conor McGregor. Like, everybody hated Conor McGregor before he turned into Conor McGregor. So Sean O'Malley just beat Peter Yan, and I looked up to Peter Yan. So he showed me that he's there. So yeah, I look up to him, and you know, even my boy Justin Scoggins, he's still an up and coming fighter. Like, he, even though he fought in the UFC, he had a stint. He's a completely different fighter now. I don't see him getting subbed. He's working with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champions all day. So he's already not getting beat on the feet. I promise you that. If you watch Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz and you watch Justin Scoggins versus Pedro Munoz, then on the feet at least, it's completely different. Justin Scoggins is murdering Pedro Munoz on the feet, and Pedro is trying to get him on the ground as fast as possible. But there wasn't a threat to Pedro with Sean, right? Because Pedro's he has big neck, big skull, but when you got stuff back, you know, everywhere, you're like, oh shit, all right, I need to calm down, take a second. But yeah, I would say that and Justin Scoggins.
Okay, and one more question, because these two, Alec Carr and Dustin Hunt, they are notorious on the show for pretty much getting into a fight. So we're going to get into it this right now. You mentioned Sugar Sean O'Malley. He did beat Peter Yan. What did you think about that decision? Because we started talking about that in our chats for like the longest time, and these two went at it. So what did you think about that decision?
You can't get mad at it. Because, I mean, like, I'm a wrestler. I'm all about control time, all of that shit, right? But when you have you got to look at it from an all-round perspective. A lot of judges, they'll look at the end of a round, right? So
That's true. There's some like
so the all-round perspective and in the criteria of judging, it's damage first. Damage first no matter what. And don't get me wrong, Peter Yan knocked him almost the fuck out. But there was a lot of damage to Peter's face. There was a lot of stuff coming at Peter's face that he was not blocking, right? And even though Peter, I feel like if in the mixed martial arts match, like if it was an all-around fight, then I got to give it to Peter. But if you're doing it by a round-by-round basis, then I've got to give it to Sean. But if I was smart, if I was actually judging a fight, I would have gave it a draw. To be honest. It was very close.
Yeah, I mean, I hate draws in fights, but there are times where it's like, all right, let's call it a draw and just run it back. Because, again, my business mind goes straight into, oh my God, the payday we're all about to see after this draw.
What they did was they saved Sean O'Malley. They could have had him on a fight night. They could have had him as the main event, right? 5 rounds, right? That's a 5-round fight, in my personal opinion. You see fight nights that are 5 rounds, and the guy's ranked number 3 and ranked number 7.
I said the same thing. I was like, at that fight, it was criminal that it was 3 rounds. It needed the 2 more rounds, in my opinion.
You're pretty much giving the title shot to the next person. So that needed to be 5 rounds for sure. But yeah, if it was 5 rounds, I've got to give that fight to Peter. Peter is way more. He's been in the muddy waters, right? You got Sean O'Malley. He got up from the muddy waters, that's for sure. But he was kind of like getting his ass kicked at the end, right? So another 2 rounds. I don't know. But Peter actually fought like a stupid fight. He didn't fight very smart. All you got to do against Sean O'Malley is not bite on his feints and use movement. And then when Sean is still right away, then you leg kick him. And then you move again. But these guys that fight, all of these Taekwondo karate style fighters, they stand in front of them. I'm like, no, you move with them until they stop. And then you're at your game plan, right? But that's just how I think about it.
All right, Dustin. Oh, let's go. Dustin, do you have any more questions before I throw it back to Alec?
I think the only thing I would ask, so I'll piggyback off the Sean O'Malley thing. So if the game plan would be like that, let's say you did try to fight him like that, what do you think makes him so special that fighters can't do it then?
I don't see anything special about Sean O'Malley, to be honest. I mean, I just think if you're talking up and coming, like just names, he's a name, right? He's a name to me. I don't see anything crazy special. He has a good, like, he'll move and he'll like hit that like karate switch step, like he'll step far away and then get a little angle and then hit the cross, stuff like that. His teeps, but he's not a longevity fighter. He's gonna be just like Conor. He's gonna be in the game for a little bit to where people can't figure him out, and then when they figure him out, he's done. Right? So that's what needs to happen. Like Sean O'Malley needs like 3 to 4 fights against top 10 opponents. If you're top 10, in my personal opinion, in the ranking system, you need to fight 9, then you need to fight 8, then you need to fight 7, and if those guys beat each other in the meantime, then the rankings can go on to that. But when you're seeing somebody that's not ranked going against anybody, can have their day in fighting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I feel like the ranking system in the UFC personally is just ass, but the ranking system in one, I can't really say anything because I got 1 fight and I was in the top 5, but we are a very small weight class, right? So and they wanted to build the weight class quicker, but I don't see, like, they see Sean O'Malley as a money grab, a quick money grab, and then he's out. He's kind of like a Lil Baby in the rap game. Lil Baby little baby's gonna be hot for 3 to 4 years, and then he's gonna fall off because he's already got his money. He don't want to do all the PR shit. You know, he's already sold all of his merch. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
Okay, yeah, back to Alec. If you have any more questions before we wrap up this beautiful interview.
Yeah, man. You said, and I apologize if you already said how, but I know you said, I believe you said second round you beat Pacquiao.
First or
How do
second.
you do it? How do you do it, man? Call it out.
Yes, I think that it's either going to be a straight right hand. I'm going to catch him straight down the pipe. He likes to get his head offline, don't get me wrong, but when he has to bring it back sometime, right? So when his head's online, I'm going to look for it and I'm going to go head hunting. Besides that, if his skills are what they look like, then yeah, I'll take him to the ground and submit him. And if he can get up from me, and I just don't think he's as athletic as Lito Adewin, right? Lito, he could actually get back up to his feet. I think that Joshua Pascal is just one of those. He kind of reminds me of a Japanese fighter a little bit. Japanese fighters, they're very technical. They don't use too much muscle, right? But don't do that with me. I have too much muscle for you to deal with, for you to just be technical. I'll smack, right? So I think in the second round, it's either going to be a triangle choke or it's going to be a guillotine.
You've literally picked up, I think his teammate, Lito, you literally picked him up and threw him back on the ground. So I hope he doesn't try to do that. He could just ask his teammate how that worked out for him.
Can they stop it? Can they stop it? That's the main thing. And, that's going to be one of my, things that I'm going to be saying in every fight. Can you stop it? Because everybody's going to be like, damn, like everybody thought, the Khabib fans, the fans of Khabib, they actually realized what he was doing in the martial art aspect and that he wasn't just a wrestler, right? He could actually strike, but nobody could get past it. So why not do anything else, right? So, and it's depending on the fighter that I'm fighting against. If I'm fighting somebody that's a jiu-jitsu fighter, hell yeah, I'll knock him out on the feet, right? But if you're telling me if I can wrestle Floyd Mayweather, I'm gonna wrestle fuck the shit out of him, right? So
yeah, that'd be good. Be a good idea.
Yeah. And I'm not putting Joshua Pacquiao in that realm of Floyd Mayweather, but Wushu is an acquired style, and I respect their team and I respect the things that they've done in one championship. But it's my time now, man, and I know that they're paying attention to me. I'm my own coach as well, so I know that his coach is paying attention to me very carefully. And just know I'm very surprising. I'll bring cards out of my hat, out of my pocket, no matter what.
Yeah, man. I got one more question, but I'm a believer in you, man. I think just from what I've seen, Pacquiao hasn't seen anything like you. I mean, the way you bring pressure, the way you bring it. I mean, you bring it right away, and I rewatching your fights. I was just going, man, this is it's like watching a smaller Khabib, like just attack. My last question is, being a Detroit kid, a Detroit guy,
Yeah.
traveling to the Philippines, fighting it in your far away land, your opponent's home territory. I was when it was announced and you were fighting in the Philippines, I was like, oh man, he's gonna be like Muhammad Ali going over to Manila.
Manila.
So does that have any effect on you at all? Do you care? Do you not even hear the crowd? Or does that excite you because you're gonna go? Your goal is to go upset him in front of his entire family, his entire city, and his entire country.
It's the thing I live for, man. I'm the bad guy. You got to be. If I'm the bad guy in the business, then I already know what I'm getting myself into. So of course the crowd plays dividends in a fight. It's not like you can't pay attention to that, But I do a really good job of keeping my focus, even though I have ADHD. A great focus on my opponent and the things that he's doing, because if you aren't focused, you turn your head for a split second, then you're knocked out, right? So the crowd, it really won't really get to me. The Brazilian crowd didn't really get to me, but it's just like hearing the roars and you're just like, holy shit, this is really loud when I'm on top of this guy trying to punch him and I just hear a bunch of stuff. But I think I've done a good job of disconnecting like my audio, tuning for that.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm out of questions. It's a pleasure interviewing you, man. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
And
I know
one of the coolest.
I think I could speak for all three of us. We're all in your corner for this fight. We're all rooting for you.
And absolutely.
And I think the people who are saying Pacquiao is gonna win, and there's no question, are just foolish. I mean, is there a path to victory for him? Of course there is. He's one of the best fighters in the world. Of course there's a path to victory for him. But it's just, the experience level that he has and the fighters that he's faced, nothing like you, man. And I got to give you my gratitude because I appreciate it.
All right, there you go. That is our interview with Jared Brooks. I am so happy. Probably his battery went out or he had to go, but that's fine. But we got a really great interview, you guys. If you haven't watched it, please check it out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Fights Unwrapped, Unwrapped Sports Network. Yep. Alec Carr.
Real quick, before we go, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about him? What do you guys think about him? Do you think he's going to be victorious December 3rd? Because I honestly, I wasn't just sucking up to the fighter on the stream. I really do think that he has the easiest path to victory, and that he can get this guy can get Pacquiao down to the ground and absolutely win this.
I personally think he's going to get it. I think he's going to get it. I definitely think he's going to get it, to be honest. Just seeing how confident he is, seeing the way he just carries himself. And I agree. I don't think he's fought anybody like this man. So, well, I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to have a really successful career with one, especially since he plans on staying loyal to him and staying in that division. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I really like his demeanor. I really like how he carried himself. He's obviously way well-spoken. He's been in this game for quite a long time, and it's pretty obvious. And I definitely think he's going to win. I just think that he is just a little bit more well-rounded than Joshua. Like, everything that Joshua could do, he can do better. And that's why I think he's going to win. So we're definitely rooting for you, Jared. If you're watching this part of the interview, we're definitely rooting for you. We're in your corner. We can't wait for December 3rd. And we're definitely going to be fans of you for life. And I love that interview, guys. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed myself. I really loved listening to what he had to say. And all the questions that we had were just brilliant. So, yay.
Yeah, man. I'm not joking when I say, like, the Demetrious Johnson fight, if that happens after this, let's say he is victorious, that is going to catapult one championship into realms that no one thought of.
I agree. I think that'd be a huge fight, man. I think it's going to be a huge fight.
All right, guys, it is 8 o'clock. It's been 1 hour. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody that's been watching. Thank you to Jared, obviously, for being here in our interview, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Happy Fight Week.
See you, everyone.